Kofi Annan, former UN Secretary-General, dies. First published on Saturday 18th of August 2018 10.42 BST. Shares 94,286. Kofi Annan addresses the UN General Assembly in New York. Kofi Annan was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his humanitarian work with the UN. Photograph, Alison Joyce, Reuters. The former UN Secretary-General Kofi Annan has died at the age of 80 after a short illness, his family and foundation announced on Saturday. The Ghanaian was the 7th Secretary-General and served for 2 terms between 1997 and 2006. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his humanitarian work jointly with the UN as an organization in 2001. He died in hospital in Bern, Switzerland in the early hours of Saturday with his wife, Nain, and 3 children Imar, Kojo and Nina, by his side. He had retired to Geneva and later lived in a Swiss village. Kofi Annan, in pictures. Annan's foundation issued a statement on his Twitter account on Saturday that described him as a global statesman and deeply committed internationalist who fought throughout his life for a fairer and more peaceful world. Kofi Annan, at Kofi Annan. It is with immense sadness that the Annan family and the Kofi Annan Foundation announced that Kofi Annan, former Secretary-General of the United Nations and Nobel Peace Laureate, passed away peacefully on Saturday 18th August after a short illness. pic.twitter.com/42ngoxmkps. August 18, 2018. The statement added that Annan, who succeeded Boutros Boutros-Ghali as UN leader, was a son of Ghana and felt a special responsibility towards Africa. The current UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, whom Annan appointed to lead its refugee agency, said, in many ways, Kofi Annan was the United Nations. He rose through the ranks to lead the organization into the new millennium with matchless dignity and determination. Kofi Annan, sometimes you don't have to pick a fight to get your way. Read more. The former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair said on Twitter that he was shocked and distressed by Annan's death. He was a good friend whom I saw only weeks ago. Kofi Annan was a great diplomat, a true statesman and a wonderful colleague who was widely respected and will be greatly missed. My deepest sympathy go to Nain and his family, he said. Theresa May, the UK Prime Minister, said on Twitter. Theresa May, at Theresa_May, sad to hear of the death of Kofi Annan, a great leader and reformer of the UN. He made a huge contribution to making the world he has left a better place than the one he was born into. My thoughts and condolences are with his family. pic.twitter.com/p0swagshjm. August 18, 2018. The Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, tweeted, Jeremy Corbyn, at Jeremy Corbyn. Kofi Annan dedicated his life to building a more just and peaceful world. His efforts in support of conflict resolution and human rights will be remembered. He looked for a peaceful path when others looked for war. My thoughts are with his family and loved ones. August 18, 2018. The Russian President, Vladimir Putin, hailed Annan's wisdom and courage, and the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, said he was exceptional statesman in the service of the global community. Annan was chair of the Elders, an independent group of global leaders working for peace and human rights founded by Nelson Mandela. Gro Harlem Brundtland, the former Prime Minister of Norway and the body's deputy chair, said she and her colleagues were devastated by Annan's death. Kofi was a strong and inspiring presence to us all, and the Elders would not be where it is today without his leadership. Throughout his life, Kofi worked unceasingly to improve the lives of millions of people around the world, she said. Kumi Naidu, Amnesty International's Secretary-General, said the world had lost a great leader. Kofi's dedication and drive for a more peaceful and just world, his lifelong championing of human rights, and the dignity and grace with which he led, will be sorely missed in a world which needs these characteristics more than ever. 104. Kofi Annan's 3 key UN speeches, video. Advertisement. Born in Kumasi, Ghana, on the 8th of April 1938, Annan joined the UN system in 1962 as an administrative officer with the World Health Organization in Geneva. He later served with the Economic Commission for Africa in Addis Ababa, the UN Emergency Force in Ismailia, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees in Geneva and in several senior posts at its headquarters in New York. Before becoming Secretary-General, He was Under Secretary General for Peacekeeping and also served as Special Representative of the Secretary General to the former Yugoslavia between 1995 and 1996. The UN peacekeeping operation faced two of its most criticized incidents under Anan's leadership for its conduct during the Rwanda genocide in 1994 and the massacre in the Bosnian town of Srebrenica in July 1995. In both cases, the UN had deployed troops under Anan's command, but they failed to save the lives of the civilians they were mandated to protect. After becoming Secretary General, he ordered UN reports on both debacles that were highly critical of his management. 0:37 moment Kofi Anan was sworn in as UN Secretary General in 1996. Video. His tenure as Secretary General, which began 6 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union and also covered the 11th of September 2001 attacks and subsequent US-led war against Iraq, was one of the UN's most turbulent periods since its founding in 1945. His tenure at the UN was tarnished by a 2005 investigation of Annan and his son over the oil for food scandal, seen by some as retribution for his condemnation of the 2003 US-led invasion of Iraq as illegal. An inquiry cleared Annan of any serious wrongdoing, but found ethical and management lapses linked to his son's ties with a Swiss company that won lucrative contracts in the oil for food scheme. Annan later admitted that the scandal had sorely tested his mettle not only as Secretary General, but as a father. Annan used his final speech as Secretary General in December 2006 to deliver a parting shot at the administration of George W. Bush, accusing the US of committing human rights abuses in the name of fighting terrorism. When power, especially military force, is used, the world will consider it legitimate only when convinced that it is being used for the right purpose, for broadly shared aims in accordance with broadly accepted norms, he said. He acknowledged more recently that the UN still had its faults. The UN can be improved. It is not perfect, but if it didn't exist you would have to create it, he told the BBC in an interview for his 80th birthday in April. I am a stubborn optimist. I was born an optimist and will remain an optimist.